And then I got canceled and I got a podcast, and I had a little more fun with that. I went to jail for loading a shotgun in the ironically named Freedom Plaza in Washington, D.C., for which I did 4 months in jail, where I wrote a book called Freedom. I started writing a book in jail called Freedom. It is now got over 2 million downloads. It's been printed, is in its 4th printing, and it's been translated into over half a dozen different languages, all by volunteers. But in reality, I'm just kind of a Larkin Rose wannabe. He went to jail for a year, wrote a 300-page book. I went to jail for 4 months. I wrote a 100-page book. By the way, it's free online in every digital format possible, including the audiobook at thefreedomline.com. And I'm running for president. I'm sorry. I apologize. What a terribly unlibertarian thing to say. I'm running for not president in 2020, that is on the platform of the peaceful, orderly dissolution of the entire United States federal government.
Hey now!
Wait a second, this is Anarchapulco, right? We're going to try this one more time. On the platform of the immediate dissolution of the entire United States federal government! I plan to be the meme candidate of 2020.
Fix it.
Whoops. There we go. Yeah, that's more like it. By the way, Donald Trump apparently, according to one of my fans who weighed in today on Twitter on this presentation, Adam Kukosh and Anarchapulco today doesn't matter to me. He'll never take the government down as the not president. Adam Kukosh is fake news. Thank you.
Wow. You said that? Is that real?
If Donald Trump was actually tweeting about Anarchapulco, you would have heard about it before my presentation. In case you're wondering how to support my campaign, yes, I am advocating that anarchists vote just like this. I like to protest. I like to get undressed at airports sometimes. I like to dance with police officers.
Yeah.
I like to do yoga more than I'm good at it. I like kids. I like animals. This is my dog Blue when I was getting out of jail, as you can tell from my beard. And I'm really happy today to say for the first time that because I choose to recognize the self-ownership of all living things, and I describe myself as vegan-ish. In case you're wondering what that means, is I don't object to the consumption of animal products, I object to the creation of animal products. Make sense, right?
Yeah.
I get really great hate mail. I'm half Jewish, so I get a lot of stuff like this. I also get really good fan mail. Can you guys see what that is?
Adam versus the man.
I'm also working on building a homestead in Ashford, Arizona, in the mountains, where my favorite thing is to sit around a campfire with beautiful people and talk about great ideas. And I'm really into alternative architecture, so I suppose I'm most in my element when sitting around a campfire surrounded by people who are similarly intoxicated, talking about alternative construction, things like earthships. And a couple days from now, I think it's Tuesday, I'm giving a workshop in the morning on homesteading. I've been doing it for a little over a year now, so taking a workshop on homesteading for me is kind of like asking a first semester law school student for legal advice, but it's going to be a good time. And I've never been to a libertarian event, let alone an anarchist event, where you couldn't sneak in to any part of it that you wanted. Yeah, the organizers here are going to hate me for saying this, but if you want to thank you, Nathan. If you want to come to my workshop, let me know. It's going to be a good time. And then, thanks to Nathan's incredible organizing skills and flexibility, we're going to be adding a nonviolent communication workshop right after that. For those of you who've seen the video, would-be bully gets Kukosh, nonviolent communication in action. It's my favorite example of applying this incredible communications methodology to spreading the message and breaking down people's emotional resistance and their barriers to hearing this message. I also have my own voting booth at Freedom Ranch.
Nice.
This is one of the workshops we hosted. Does everybody here know Kenny, the anarchist chef working at the yeah. He's also going to help out at one of our workshops at the ranch. Okay, so before I get into social media censorship, I just want to say that part of what I'm going to say in this presentation today, if social media is life, this could cost me my life. The strategies that I'm going to be discussing and implementing here are what I'm very excited to be presenting to this audience in particular. So, of course, we have to get this out of the way. Is it really censorship on private property, right? And censorship, we think of, as anarchists or libertarians or voluntarists, we want to use very precise language. We want to be very precise in our ethical analyses. We want to be technically correct in all the things we say like this. So we're talking about censorship, and we don't necessarily mean by coercion. We don't necessarily mean government censorship. However, we live in a corporatocracy. We live under a system where corporations have special rights, privileges, and economic advantages because of government. And when we're talking about the major modern social media networks, we're talking about corporations that not only enjoy the benefits of that corporatism, but also are in direct cooperation with government in a lot of ways. We know how they interact with law enforcement. That's pretty open and transparent and in some ways very ugly. There was a shooting of a black woman in Maryland last year in August that she was broadcasting on Instagram and Facebook, and law enforcement said to Facebook, pull those videos, and they got pulled. But then there's all the different collusion that we know happens behind the scenes. There's a collusion happening behind the scenes that we don't know about. So I don't think it would be too much of a stretch to say that these major social media corporations at this point are, at least to one degree or another, agents of government, or even agencies of government, semi-private, or like the Federal Reserve, right? The kind of relationship that these corporations have with government makes it really hard to fully separate them. You certainly can't say that they're independent actors. But we're also not talking about things that are righteous or justified censorship. Like when you block someone on your Facebook page because they're trolling you or harassing you or stalking you or whatever the case may be, we're talking about a conversation that you have a understanding or understood right to control. That's not what we're talking about when we talk about censorship, though. I don't really consider that censorship. That's saying, hey, get out of my conversation. But when Facebook says, hey, we're giving you this platform, we're giving you this opportunity that does X, Y, and Z, and it allows me to connect to you because we're friends on Facebook, you're saying we're saying by us being friends on Facebook that, hey, we want to see each other in our feeds. We want to have access to that information. So when Facebook says we're a communication platform providing this service, and then allows for a third party to step in when I post something that they don't like, now Facebook's going to keep you from seeing that. That's a kind of deception, and I think a really, really dangerous fraud. Now there's so much more to this. Has anybody here, I asked for a show of hands earlier, I think it was everybody who said they're on social media. How many people here think they have witnessed or experienced some form of social media censorship? Oh, good, I'm in the right room. All right. So, as for me, I've been doing this for 10 years. Got a few YouTube videos uploaded. I'm a social media expert. I've been a full-time activist for almost 10 years now. I got my 10-year anniversary coming up on March 19th, which is also the invasion of the war in Iraq, when we first did that Operation First Casualty Mock Combat Patrol around Washington, D.C. And I feel like I've dealt with this entire time. And I've kind of been afraid to speak out about this. Not so much afraid, but every time some little thing happens, I want to be like, they're blocking me from people's feeds. Oh, they're screwing with my view counts. Oh, I'm not getting as many likes as I want. Anybody felt that frustration? not getting a fair shake on social media? Anybody?
Yep.
Okay. But now, having been doing this for 10 years, I've got a YouTube channel with over 50 million views. I've been with Partner Network since 2010 on YouTube. I was on Facebook. I was one of the early adopters. I was in college from 2000 to 2005. I'm not bad at math. I'm just bad at college. I did a semester abroad in Fallujah. So I was one of the first, groups of people that got on Facebook when it was just, just college students. And now after 10 years and hearing so many other people's stories, and now that there's kind of a common acceptance, like enough of us have experienced this, it's time for us to not just be talking about it and quietly grumbling about it and accepting it, but actually start to stand up and do something about it. Censorship, yeah. So, I guess I always already covered Facebook blocking, but when we hear about these problems, we're often told that these are just glitches, right? Oh, like in YouTube now, it's pretty obviously open. They actually admitted a lot of incidents. Like recently, there was a really just disgusting bug on YouTube where if you unsubscribed from someone's channel, it took away 2 subscribers from their subscriber count. So if you wanted to unsubscribe, you could troll somebody's channel and drive their subscriber count down to 0. Yeah, this is just like, I think a month ago this started. So why does this happen? This is Mark Zuckerberg. $1 million isn't cool, it's cool. $100 million for when I sell all your information to third-party companies. Just kidding. No, seriously, I might. No, seriously, he's already doing it. This is Facebook's primary business model, right? Selling ads. The thing is, it's very fragile, and a little bit I'm going to tell you how we can completely abolish this entire model. But there's also an element of politicization of social media networks. And I was on YouTube before it got bought by Google. How many people were paying attention to the election last year and know who the owners of Google or now Alphabet supported in the presidential election? Anybody? Hillary, what?
Hillary Clinton.
All right, yes, all right. You get a free book, sir. Hey, there's Joey with the new beard. Hey, Joey, please, everybody.
Thank you. I love your
Obviously, you're back at this point.
I've given away 1,000 copies. I didn't even recognize. Love it.
All right.
$40 million.
It's okay, take your time. So there's some tricks that we use to get around these things, right? But that's not what I'm talking about. So, about my experience, finally, and I'm sorry this isn't really high resolution, but recently I got a wave of anti-Semitic hate mail. And nothing obscene or like too terrible, but this was all from a guy named Curb Stomper. Yeah. I'm tired of subversive kikes lobbying for open borders. Goyim, you need to open your borders. Get the fuck out of our country, you parasitic alien. You are just as much of a filthy kike as George Soros. Yeah. Now, you would think that when you get something like this, that you'd be able to put it on social media and be like, hey, look, we still live in a world where this happens. But what I did is I took a little screen cap of my email inbox from my phone, posted it on Instagram, went to Facebook. I did 2 of these. Here's the really funny part about this, about the censorship on social media and the inconsistency of it. The first one went up, no problem. The second one led to me being banned from Facebook for a month. Now you'd think, wait, this isn't Adam's anti-Semitic posting. This is Adam saying, hey, look at some of the hate I've received, right? You would think Facebook would be able to tell the difference. Part of the problem with the current social media censorship system is that it works on a guilty until proven innocent basis. If something gets flagged, it gets automatically accepted as flagged. And it's different in different circumstances, different flagging, different profiles, different pages, different platforms. But the general concept is guilty until proven innocent. And one of the really sick things about this is that it takes it out of people's feeds. And so now, if you're my friend on Facebook and I post this and someone says, hey, that's hate speech, not only can you not hear from me for one, but you're not going to see this post either. And this is something I've got a lot of history with. This is a picture of a victim of one of Obama's drone strikes. Young girl, naked, mangled, covered in bandages, and obviously I'm taking the Obama logo and making a comment about his pro-war position. Now, somehow this got flagged as sexually inappropriate. In order to confuse this with child porn, I don't know. I think you'd have to be dumb enough to be an Obama supporter. On Instagram, which of course is owned by Facebook, it used to have a straight chronological feed. Now it's controlled by algorithms, and it's inundated with advertisements. Personally, I only had problems with Instagram a few months ago when my follower count was frozen. Where it was on a slow, steady climb before, all of a sudden it was frozen and my likes went down from averaging 500 to 600 to like 200 to 300. And at some point you just have to be like, I can't accept this anymore. Like I at least have to talk about this in a bigger context. I have to present this and say, like, bring it to a community like this. Of people who care and understand about freedom of information, who understand the power and the potential of social media and are willing to do something about it. On Twitter, and we used to always think of Twitter being the great free speech platform on the internet, right? Now we know that that is not the case. Not only do you see the algorithm introduced in different ways, messing with people's feeds and the stream of tweets that you're going to see, but I've actually recently experienced something that like a whole other kind of nefarious censorship on Twitter that I just never expected. I go and I look at my mentions every day, and a lot of them were being kept out of my stream. People would reply to tweets and they weren't showing up on the actual stream of just my @mentions. So if you're trying to use Twitter to talk to me, now the platform is actually preventing me from seeing those messages. Now we get to YouTube. Now YouTube is really the big one for me. And this is why I say like this speech might have some serious consequences for me because YouTube is actually my primary source of income right now. And this is a picture of a video with 6 views, 26 likes. What? YouTube's always been very secretive about their algorithms because they're trying to screw with things like this. But what's worse now is how they let trolls manipulate their flagging and censorship system. So I've had some instances where I've posted 5-minute videos, they're up for 2.5 minutes, and they've got 30 downvotes. And I can tell when that happens, those videos will get less views. And if I hadn't been doing this for 10 years, I would feel silly saying this. I would feel like I was whining or, oh, what was me? Oh, making excuses for shitty content. But no, I've been doing this long enough. I know when my content is shitty. I know when my content is good. I know when I'm getting messed with. I know when I'm getting trolled. And these systems of censorship, of flagging, of content control are set up to allow them to be manipulated. On Facebook, there's a widespread effort by anti-gun rights activists to go troll every pro-gun rights group and flag every single post until those pages get taken down, whether or not they're in violation of Facebook's terms of service. And they've had great success with this. So some things are acceptable on YouTube, some are not. This is a video of me, or a shot of my video teaching people how to use the Silk Road back when It was Joby was the one who got me into that. How many of you can say that you regret spending way too many $10 bitcoins on the Silk Road? So this video got pulled down. Now this is my most recent incident. I could talk for hours. I can stand up here and bitch for hours about all the ways that I've been messed with on YouTube, all the ways that I've been demonetized, all the ways that my content has been taken out of people's streams. But here's a really recent one. I was on the Strip in Las Vegas. It was one of my favorite places to do man on the street interviews. I do a kind of Socratic dialogue interview style where I try to elucidate some of the status contradictions that most people have. And the original title of this video was 9/11 was an inside job, so what? So I'm talking to this guy. By the way, does anybody here believe in the government story about 9/11?
No.
Nope.
Okay. Trick question, right? You'd be pleased to know that from my experience so far, most Americans are with you on this. I went out on the street in Vegas trying to do Socratic dialogues based on the government story being completely true and accurate. CIA calls it blowback. Okay, so you're asking for government to protect you from terrorism that it created by pissing people off. Now, sidebar on that issue, if I may rant for a second here. I have another video called The Restraint of Muslims. And if you look at the amount of deaths caused in the Middle East by the United States military interventions, and you compare them to all of the deaths in history that could be attributed to Muslim terrorism, it is the greatest testament to the restraint of Muslims that the retaliation, if that's what it is, has been so infinitesimally small. However, as most of you probably know, the reality is that most of that terrorism is not actually blowback, but created by our American government. So, when I was doing these man on the street interviews, I was asking people, okay, so if government says that terrorism, 9/11 was because blowback, blah, 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 and 3 out of 3 people I was talking to this day were like, yeah, but I don't really believe that anyway. So I started to think, well, if you're asking for government to solve a problem that it created, doesn't that seem a little crazy? And then you go, oh wait, government is the problem behind it? No, it's really freaking crazy to be turning to government for protection, isn't it? And Elvis happens to believe that 9/11 was an inside job. Oh, dude stayed in character the entire interview. It was really great. Of course, this video was immediately demonetized.
Demonetized.
Not in violation of any of YouTube's stated community guidelines, which, by the way, are extremely silly and vague, so that you can basically report anything, which we'll come back to in a few minutes, by the way. Now, you might think, well, hey, it's demonetization, what's the problem with this? Well, in the bigger picture, this is a kind of soft censorship, right? It costs money to produce media. When you say, hey, you can make money on our platform, but not if you talk about controversial subjects, that's a form of censorship by favoring those who are saying what the owners of Google want them to say. And you would think it might have been because of something particularly offensive in this video, but it's just a conversation with a dude on the street. I also know enough from having been doing this when I see that, my baseline for views, even when I've got 220,000 something subscribers, is like 4,000 or 5,000 views. When I have one that, like this one after a few days was at 2,600 something, there's some other consequence of this, that when a video gets flagged for being inappropriate, it's not getting shown in people's subscriber feeds as much as you would think. But it gets worse. By the way, I'll just read this real quick. So when I said this, when I posted this, it said, your video isn't being monetized because it contains content that might not be appropriate for advertising. To monetize a video, your content, metadata, and thumbnails must be advertiser friendly. think your video meets this criteria, you can have it reviewed for monetization again. So again, guilty until proven innocent, right? You get taken off, you get your video pulled, whatever the case may be. By the way, the video I did, the restraint of Muslims, it was up for a while, it got pulled, I posted it online. A year later, it was re-released. All right, so I know this probably can't read this from here. Like I said, I'm a member of a YouTube partner network, which is basically if you're a YouTube content creator, YouTube's a black hole in terms of customer service. There's no one you can contact. It's really a pain in the ass to deal with them. If something goes wrong, you have no recourse, so on and so forth. But when you're with a partner network, you have a company that's supposed to be a bridge between you and YouTube. They take a percentage of your income, somewhere in the range of 15 to 30%. And in exchange, they help you grow your channel, they help you develop it, and occasionally provide a service of interacting with YouTube for you. And in this case, he asked that I leave his name out, and for the time being, I'll leave out the name of my partnership network as long as I'm bringing up the topics that I'm going to be today. Regarding your video, here's what YouTube's guideline states and why it was considered not friendly. Controversial or sensitive subjects and events, including subjects related to war, political conflicts, natural disasters, and tragedies, even if graphic imagery is not shown. This is not in YouTube's community guidelines. They do not know that this is being made public. Your topic of 9/11 was marked as a sensitive event and not enabled for monetization. I do not recommend appealing your video since the entire topic covers 9/11, can be considered as an opinion piece and not as a news-related video. So now I'm getting messages on Twitter like this. YouTube unsubscribed me from Adam Kukosh and Brave the World. Hey, Julie Toriansky, everybody. I would never have done it myself. Crazy. At Adam Kukosh and at Mark Dyson channels on YouTube stop showing your posts. No bell feature anymore. All my subscripts went silent yesterday. Does anybody experience anything like this? Yes. Anybody? Show hands. Well, hey, Julia, you should be raising your hand now. By the way, it's shadow banned on Twitter. So hey, by the way, it's a great honor to be opening up for Julia today. She's coming on after me. So. This is important because social media is the battleground where the information war is taking place today. So the first solution that I would like to propose to this is something that I call super social. I'm really excited to be presenting this here today because I know we have a really smart crowd. We have a lot of programmers, entrepreneurs, people who make stuff happen, people who are way smarter than me, who could actually see if this is possible and put it together. Imagine we had Super Social, an independent open source social media protocol on which you could design apps you can make Super Facebook. So you pull up Super Facebook and it looks just like your Facebook, except when you open settings, there's an option, turn off advertising. Would any of you like that?
Yes.
How about take the algorithm off my feed and give me a chronological feed of everybody I'm connected to?
Right.
Now, you see the problem with this, right? People start using this platform, all of a sudden social media revenue from advertising starts going down and down and down and down and down, and eventually they're not even able to fund themselves. Anybody here got a problem with that?
No.
Super Twitter, super Instagram, super whatever you want on this separate protocol. This makes so many other things possible because now all of these communication modalities that are happening through these social media networks can happen in an open source way. Now, I don't know if we have the technology really to do this right now. I don't know if your smartphone is fast enough, if your internet connection is fast enough for Super Social to go and scrape the data from every page and friend that you're connected to on these platforms and rearrange it in a straight chronological feed for you. But similarly to the technology of Bitcoin itself, there was a certain necessity for a development of processor speed and internet connections and for memory capacity of individuals' computers to be able to store the blockchain. Similarly, we might be a ways off on this. Some people have told me that this is impossible without access to the APIs for these platforms. I understand if you could access their databases more directly, that it could be faster, it'd be a little bit easier, but you're not going to get any support from them developing anything like this for very obvious reasons, right? Now, one of the things that they say on social media networks is that this is about public safety and things like that, and that's why they have to censor them. Obviously, I'm not a fan of any kind of government law enforcement or any enforcement of any law other than the natural law, but it is really absurd for Facebook to say, well, if someone's doing something criminal on our platform, we're going to censor it, as opposed to we're going to allow for it to be reported to the people who are expected in society to be actually able to handle real crimes. So what you can do with this, you can have Super Messenger, and then you can have all of your inboxes combined into one. You could have Super Stream, have all of your streams combined into one. You could have something else entirely. But I think this idea has not only a lot of power to disempower current social media networks, but to provide us the bridge to true open source social media, where it's controlled by the users entirely, completely decentralized in a blockchain style, rather than under the current corporate system that we have right now. So, for my next solution to this problem, I have to start with a little disclaimer. I'm not actually suggesting anybody do what I'm about to say or talk about. So I'll just sort of pose this as a question. Wouldn't it be interesting to see what would happen to these censorship systems if we just started flagging everything statist? The systems that they use to manage censorship on social media platforms right now are already overwhelmed. And I'm not asking anybody to even change, I'm not asking anybody to do anything, excuse me. I'm not suggesting or asking what would happen if you guys changed your habits of internet usage entirely. I'm not asking what would happen if maybe 10 or 100 of you decide you're just going to spend an hour a day on tour and go to these social media sites and just go to all the mainstream media outlets, go to every pro-status think tank, go to every mainstream political party, every politician, and just flag everything. If they're talking about war, flag it for violence. If they mention sex, flag it for inappropriate sexual whatever. If they're promoting politicians, I would certainly call that harassment, flag it as such. So we have a sort of spectrum of injustice, right? From innocent until proven guilty to guilty until proven innocent. And if all that happens as a result of this is that we move the dial a little bit along the way, we can have a major impact on changing the conversation and helping humanity realize the potential of social media. So yeah, flag wars. Now, I think social media should never risk being nice at the expense of being honest. And that's what we've come to with this current system. At least that's part of the excuse that social media networks use in order to carry out this kind of censorship. So, aside from these two ideas that I'm really excited to share with this community, the idea of super social and flag wars, and I don't know, maybe somebody here more clever than me, someone here whose revenue doesn't depend on social media, could start and organize something like this anonymously. Anybody here ever do any anonymous activism on here? And by the way, if you're watching this video, a video of this presentation later, please don't share it. I don't want to get in trouble for this. But maybe April 1st would be a good day to launch this effort. I mean, just hypothetically, I'll be watching. I'd be curious to see what would happen that people just started flagging the heck out of everything status on the internet, and to see as a result how much more of a free internet we could create. So, more importantly, in the short term, there's a lot that we can do to support independent media outlets who are working against the system of censorship, who are putting out the information that the mainstream social media networks don't want you to hear. And there's something missing from the slide. Anyway, for myself, my website is thefreedomline.com. I've got a handful of free books here left. My book is free in every single digital format possible, including audiobook at freedomline.com. You can check out KukosForNotPresident.com for the platform about how we take the federal government apart from the top down. By the way, does anybody here not vote? Yeah. Thank you very much for your support. Remember, I'm running for not president, which means, if you haven't noticed, that I've already won. Because I'm not president. Thank you very much.
I'm gonna get my charger.
And you want to follow him if you're not already online. Find out what's there, you will delight it. Gene and I sit at home at night and watch YouTube videos, watching Adam and getting a chance to learn a whole lot about that. By the way, an additive feature that you have, those of you that saw Simply Fresh, one of our sponsors who has an opportunity for you to grow your own fresh food and have a land that you want, they are holding a session next door in Stage B, effective immediately with our next presentation. And our next presentation here, you are going to love. We've got the lectern coming on stage here. By the way, that is a lectern. The podium is what you stand on.